Before we get into this, welcome to 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon. We're on YouTube and podcast platforms all around the world. Tell me what you just said as I was about to introduce the show.
I was just telling everybody that, things change so quickly, and it's like the tides at the Bay of Fundy. In and out all the time. Whether you're
huge tides too.
Huge tides. Well, have you been to the Bay of Fundy?
The biggest in the world, right?
Biggest in the world.
I've not been to the Bay of Fundy. I'm out on the East Coast every year. It's on my bucket list, and I've never got there in 15 years.
Beautiful golf course close to the Bay of Fundy. We should go.
Fun is the best part of Fundy. We put the fun in Fundy. Last night,
I don't think that. I'd rather have the every time somebody says 100%, you jump in with the word hockey. Because you know what? Everybody says 100%, and we just have to get people to jump in with hockey, because we put the fun in Fundy. Doesn't really have many references to the game.
I bet you there's a T-shirt that says that somewhere.
We put the fun in Fundy. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I'm sure, but it's a little pub, somewhere in New Brunswick, right?
14 games last night in the National Hockey League. It might have been the best night of the season for impactful action, some twists and turns, standings implications.
I've said that 6 times in the last 3 weeks. It's happening, and what's happening because of the way the schedule works. It's these Tuesdays and Thursdays that are magical because there's so many games.
Yeah,
and you're right. Last night was. I didn't know how many games to watch and how to watch all the games, and it was just fantastic the way things went. I mean, the Detroit Red Wings, who everybody's starting to give up for dead, go into Philadelphia and win, and so all of a sudden the Red Wings are back in the race, and the Senators, who have this have a little bit of a soap opera going between. What Matthew and Brady are doing on their podcast, and Linus Ullmark being tired and then not being able to play very well against Florida. They win an impressive game last night, and all of a sudden the Ottawa Senators are wild card number 2. And it looks there was a great shot of Travis Green when the athletic therapist whispered in his ear that there's obviously something wrong with Clevin, who got hurt. I don't know how severe yet, but. Another defenseman down for the Ottawa Senators, but the Senators are back in it and got a chance.
What do you make of the attention that Matthew and Brady are getting for the podcast and what they're saying? Because they have to talk.
But you don't think they knew that before they would do the podcast?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, and let's face it, they're trying to do for hockey what the Kelsey brothers did for football.
Yeah,
and so then you have to be responsible for what you say. I mean, when you go on the air and say something stupid,
never happened. People
call you out, whether it be on social media, whether it be with a phone call. When you go on Sirius Radio and people find you and phone you and say you're full of it, I know those things happen.
To me?
Yeah.
When was the last time that happened?
Yesterday?
Not a chance. I was good yesterday.
Okay. And you never got a call about what you said on the air?
No.
Liar.
Not yesterday.
Oh, the day before.
Day before? Not the day before. What did I say?
When you were on the air with Mike Johnson and Gord Stellick.
Oh,
you didn't get a phone call an hour later from someone?
Somebody, you're right about that. I didn't. I was thinking more TV, but it wasn't something that I said stupid. It was more reacting to something that I said, having some fun with it,
which they obviously felt was stupid.
Yes.
So that's my point. That's my point.
On the subject of that, I did that interview with John Tortorella this week.
Great.
And the reaction to it, just people getting to know that side of Torts.
Well, and he's He's been out of coaching for a year, so he's had time to think. And the interview you did, that's the John Tortorella I know.
Yes.
That's the guy I communicate with, and have always heard that. And he's going to be demanding, and he's got parameters, and he believes in his process, not anybody else's, but he believes in his process. But there's a human side to him, the love of horses, the love of dogs, and how he has become a bit of a shelter for some of the animals that have been abused. It's a tremendous story.
Grumpa.
Well, I'd like to start calling him Grumpa too.
What I didn't know was the story behind when he got the call from Vegas, because Bonus was out in his boat
and he was buying one,
and Torts was buying a boat. So you know what every coach that's out of work right now is doing today?
Buying boats.
They're at the marina.
Yeah.
Doing that. But so you talk about him being misunderstood.
Yes.
Bar Down posted an exchange that I had with Torts. I asked him a question. Can you tell me what your conversation with the leadership group was on the ice? And he said, no.
Nope. Yeah.
Bar Down posted that with something like, so Torts is back. It's totally misunderstood or misinterpreted.
But hold on. You baited him.
Well, I knew he was. I thought he would answer it that way, but I also thought, well, it'd be a great answer if he tells me. I didn't take offense to that, and he and I had a laugh about it 10 minutes later. Yeah. About, well, I kind of knew that you weren't going to answer it, and he said, I knew that you knew I wasn't going to answer it, but then somebody posts this that exchange. I'm like, that's totally off the mark.
You baited him. Let's face it.
No.
Well, no, but that happens all the time. We all, those of us that go on the air and say things, clips are taken out of context. Most people, quite frankly, don't listen to whole interviews before they make some sort of rash judgment. But that's okay. That's price that you pay for being on this side of the microphone, I think. Torts is
2-0. Beat Vancouver, beat Calgary, so yeah. 2 non-playoff teams.
See, I'm kind of like his mother, though. Huh?
Oh yeah,
I call him John. I call him John.
He doesn't want to be called John. He's Torts.
You know what?
You're John.
We have process. Well, we have that too. Is it data or data?
Is it Big John, Little John?
We're about the same size.
When you guys talk?
We're about the same size.
Okay.
But he's got to respect me. I'm a few days older than him. So,
and Edmonton's in a first place tie in the division now. Yeah. And there's a first place tie in the Atlantic division. Is that battle between Buffalo and Tampa?
Hold on.
No. Let me finish. Buffalo and Tampa. Is that the battle for coach of the year? Does the winner of that race, if they win the division, get coach of the year?
Well, can I say hold on now? Can I say hold on now?
Sure.
What about Marty St. Louis then? Because what if Montreal wins the division? Seriously.
Yeah.
Think about it. They're 2 points behind. They all have 7 games. When you look at the
I think Montreal and Tampa have a game in hand.
Sorry, you're right. Buffalo is, but what's fascinating? Actually, you just tweaked me to something that I was saving. But what's fascinating to me is that so the Sabres are going to make the playoffs. Yeah. Had they won in Ottawa last night, they would have clinched a spot. So the next time they play, which is Friday night in Washington, they have a chance to be a playoff team. So 15 years later, same coach.
Isn't it awesome?
And so the trivia question is, how many coaches between Lindy and Lindy? How many coaches were there?
7?
I think 6.
Okay.
But here's the fascination. In that time, there is only one player on the Sabre team in 2011 that is still in the National Hockey League. So that's a good. I love this trivia question.
Who is it?
Tyler Myers,
Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, but and of course I was in Buffalo and I said that's a great trivia question. Ah, we knew it. We all knew it. Oh, well, thanks for making me feel so good.
Well, it's when I come up with something, you're like, I already knew that.
Well,
you're always a step ahead of me.
No, you have this thing of sending messages about what's going on in Toronto, and you don't live here, so it's about like 72 hours delayed when you say it.
Nothing's delayed out of Toronto. It goes worldwide. It's like Artemis 2. It gets up and out of here in a hurry.
Yeah,
you're right. Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Montreal. So, any one of them could win the division. And in the Pacific, Anaheim, Edmonton tied, and Vegas is 3 points back. Anyone could win the division there. It's incredible. Three-way ties for the second wild card spot in both divisions.
And Vegas and Edmonton on Saturday night. Woohoo!
Oh, really?
People outside of Vegas might not know that. Because you know, the one thing I have tried to teach you, Daren, is you have to speak to the masses. You can't just speak to, Clark County, okay?
Hey, our buddy just joined the chat. Kenny Holland.
I was going to say Anze Kopitar.
No. What a great ceremony last night.
It was really good.
Fun. It was quick, and because you can't do too much in the middle of an important time of the season. But Los Angeles Kings acknowledged Anze Kopitar.
I saw your pal on the ice last night.
Yeah. Which one?
Well, I was actually thinking Jarrett Stoll. But then I saw Alec get interviewed.
Yeah. Marty's my coworker now and buddy.
See, if you do the Stoley Marty stuff, that's driving me nuts. No. Stoley Marty, And when Tortorella said in the interview, with you, he said, "I'm just trying to learn everybody's nickname." I grabbed my head and said, no.
Well, and he gave me the green light for torts.
Yes or
and
no?
I swear, I'm in the office and people are talking about John this, John that. I'm like, John Stevens, our president of the business side is John Penhall. They're talking about John, but they're talking about John Tortorella. And I'm like, I've never called him John or referred to him as John, but he gave everybody, the green light. Torts. And we'll talk to Kenny Holland. I guess Kenny's just Kenny. Just realize that. Kenny Holland doesn't have a nickname, does he?
Well, you do the typical hockey thing. You add the Y. See, to me, it's Ken Holland, but then he's Kenny.
Doesn't really fit as a nickname. I classify it as his name. Ken Holland, a.k.a. Kenny, will join us in just a little bit. Tough result last night, but on the flip side, they got a point out of it. What's his mood like right now in this frantic race in the Western Conference? And we'll get into a bunch of other things, as we always do with Kenny. That's coming up on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon. Give us a thumbs up.
NHL TV is now on DAZN. Hockey lives here.
Here we go.
Watch every game from every team. The best players in the world. And the coldest plays on ice. Watch up to 4 games at once for the ultimate NHL experience. Sign up now at DAZN.
Coming off a crazy busy night in the National Hockey League, which included the Los Angeles Kings, as mentioned. Here is the general manager, Kenny Holland. So where are you today, this morning?
I'm in the office.
This whole mess.
Oh, in this whole mess. We're tied. Obviously, 3 of us are tied at 79 points, San Jose, Nashville, and us. So big stretch of games coming up here.
How do you feel?
What do I feel? Love being in the race. You always wish you had a few more points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
But we we're in this position here where we can still, I think, play our way in, but we're obviously going to have to win a lot of games.
So I mean, Connor McDavid, who you know well, called this division a pillow fight. Is it as bad as it's perceived to be, or is this just the competitive nature of this division?
Well, I think if you flip it, last year the pillow fight was probably in the East. You know, Calgary missed with 96 points last year, and I think 91 points made it in the East. And this year it's flipped. So, probably a couple of weeks ago, there was, a lot of teams. There was a number of games there were teams in our division weren't winning, but obviously some teams, Vegas has won a few now, Edmonton. So I just think it goes back and forth. Last year it took less points to make it in the East, and this year it's going to take less points to make it in the West. But obviously everybody wants to be in the playoffs, and we've got, like I said, we have a big stretch of games here left for this division and this conference.
7 games to go. 90 points, the magic number?
Probably appears that way. That's we'd have to go 5-0-1, probably something like that. 90, 89, depending on how things shake down. Somewhere in there. 88 to 91, I'd say, John.
Has the number floated for you? Because you keep track of this all the time.
No, I think you were looking at it in around 90-ish, a month ago in our conference, the way things were going. It is what it is. We just gotta, like I said, I think it's 88 to 91, depending on how things shake out the rest of the way.
It's just been a fluke, the fact that you play Nashville twice in 5 days. Is that a good thing? Or, because the schedule maker does this thing 18 months ago, and now it looks like genius.
Yeah, and I think in the East too. I mean, it's you guys are talking about scoreboard watching. I mean, the races in both conferences are unbelievable. Peers are going to go down to the last game, the last weekend, not the weekend, but the last game or two to decide who's in on both sides. Anytime teams play head to head, last night's game was massive, and we've got them again here on Monday. Nashville goes into San Jose, I believe, tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And we're so Nashville played us. Nashville plays San Jose. We play Nashville. So makes it exciting for the fans. It makes for great games. They're like playoff games, basically, in the regular season. The importance of these games are like playoff games. So fabulous. The races have made for fabulous games down the stretch in both conferences.
You've been around the game a long time, and you have had tremendous connection with some of the best superstars in the game. When you think of, Stevie and Nick Lidstrom, Connor McDavid, Henrik Zetterberg, where does Anze Kopitar fit into that after being with him for a year?
Well, I mean, he's in that conversation. I think he was the best 200-foot player in the game. For a decade, maybe didn't put the 120 points on the board, but he was a lot like, I guess when I was in Detroit with Datsuk, I think Pav had 2 years at 97 points, but, so good defensively. That's Anze, a great leader, 200-foot player, still a really, really important player on our team, centering our number one line in his last year in the National Hockey League speaks to, his longevity and his passion and his determination. And it's hard, John, it's hard to play 200 feet. You gotta go down, do all that defensive responsibility. And then you got to go all the way down the ice, and you got to try to still be involved in the offense. And that's why, he's got 2 Stanley Cups on his resume. They won the Cup here in 12 and 14. First ballot Hall of Famer, great leader, great person. And again, if you look in the guy in record book, I don't know what I haven't looked at his numbers, but probably an 80-point guy, a point a game guy. but then he picks up so many points on the defensive side of the puck that don't go on the offense, but helps you win. And a great role model, and certainly a big part of the culture here of why they've been good defensively for many, many years.
What in the year that you have been there, what have you learned about him that you didn't know before?
What a great human being he is. How he cares, and I think you see it, John, when many nights when the game's over, the other team waits to shake his hand. This is a competitive league, and I think his peers, his opponents respect how he's played the game. He plays the game hard, but he plays the game fair. He plays the game within the rules, and so it's just. You see people from afar, but obviously being here on an everyday basis, watching how much he's respected in the locker room. I think, I'd heard coming in, he was a really good person. He's an even better person than I had thought. Better, he's just not a better. He's just a competitor on and off the ice. A great leader, but does it right every day. Great family man. Just an incredible human being.
He's got a fun side to him too, which is hard to do.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I think when you play the game and you come out before the camera, people only see a certain, but back behind he's relaxed. He's one of the guys, downstairs in the lunchroom every day. He's sitting there in the middle of all the guys. He's one of the people. He's one of the players. He doesn't. He loves life. He likes to laugh. He's relaxed, but he knows when it's time to go out and practice. He's focused, and when it's time to put the equipment on to play the game, it's the same thing. And his teammates learn that early on.
Can we dig into his game a little bit? We know he's a 200-foot guy. He's got the 5 tools to his game, but rank his game a little bit. What are the top 3 attributes of his game that people who just know the name and know the brand Anze Kopitar, but aren't as familiar with the intricacies of his game?
Yeah, I would say first off, you don't realize what a big man he is. Like he's a big, thick man. And, he can absorb hits even at this age, at 38 years of age. You can hit him. He just absorbs the hit and it doesn't bounce him off the puck. Like he's a big, strong, powerful man. So, down low in both offensive ends, protecting the puck, and in the defensive end, when he's got to try to box people out, people don't, they don't slide off him in the defensive zone, and in the offensive zone, they're not bouncing him off the puck. And then he's got great hands. So, when you've got great hockey sense. So when you've got a great, big, powerful man, that defensively is always in the right position, you can't slide off him. And in the offensive zone, he can hang on to the puck and he can absorb hits. He's just a real impactful player in both ends of the rink. And that's the 200-foot we're talking about. And obviously you've got high hands and hockey sense. You've got to have all that in order to be the leading scorer in the history of a franchise. So, but I think it's you don't realize how big he is. And then great in the face-off circle, all the little details of the game. That's what made Nick Lidstrom special to me, in my opinion, was all the details. Like he was detail oriented, just the little stick, the little stick checks and the stick in the right position. Anze Kopitar is exactly the same thing at the forward position. He's the detail to his game, defensively and offensively, always in the right position, the stick in the right place. People don't slide on it, doesn't turn pucks over, knows how to protect the puck down low. And so, I don't know that if, when you went to a game, if Nick Lidstrom wowed you, if Anze Kopitar wow you, but they wow you over time because they do it right over and over and over and over again. And he impacts a franchise significantly because of his leadership skills, because he became playing in all the important situations offensively and defensively for a decade, and just does it right shift after shift after shift.
So he was in the 2005 draft. He was, which is basically known as the Sydney draft. I would presume the three biggest names in the draft, if you look at it, are Crosby, Carey Price, Anze Kopitar. I would presume that he would have been second or third in the draft if you had 20/20 hindsight, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
You took Kindle, by the way, that year. So.
Oh boy. No, I'm just kidding. I like Jakob. You know what, John and Daren, when you start talking about it, building a team, the three areas, good down the middle, big time center, big time defenseman, minute muncher that can play against the other, and a goalie, if you got one of the top 5 or 6 goalies. So, Anze Kopitar is a building block. He's they're all building blocks, Sidney Crosby and Carey Price. And when you get these building blocks, the guys that, he's your center on your number one line for, well, he's still there today, 20 years, maybe they're not the first 2 or 3 years, but early on in his early 20s, he's the centerman on your number one line. And here he is at the age of 38, still our number one center iceman on our first line with Panarin and Kempe. So he's a massive building block. And, last night before the game, I saw Dave Taylor in the media lounge there, and he was the general manager when they drafted Anze, and I congratulated him on what an incredible pick he made, because when you make those picks, how Anze has impacted this franchise for even to last night, it's amazing. That's why players like Kopi, go in the Hall of Fame. They're just better than everybody else at their prime, and then their longevity, because they're better, they can do it way longer than everybody else. You look at what Sidney Crosby's doing in Pittsburgh. They're like I said, they're foundational pieces that impact your franchise for decade and a half, 2 decades.
He would have been storybook last night if he had scored in the shootout.
Yeah, the crowd was excited when they announced his name, and obviously went seven shooters. Both goalies were outstanding. I mean, it was we got out of the gate slow, got behind, and I thought our guys dug in big time last night, and turned out to be a hell of a hockey game for the fans, and went to a shootout, and but there's 1 goal on 14 shots in the shootout. Both goalies put up a wall, and now we got the Leafs in here tomorrow night.
I was just seeing Jared Stoll and Alec Martinez on the ice before the game. Their eyes and their faces lighting up, being able to interact with them. And I know they can see him and talk to him whenever they want, but being able to be part of that for Anze Kopitar was pretty cool on their side.
Yeah, absolutely. And how great, what a great quick celebration. Obviously, he's going to have a big celebration at the appropriate time, somewhere down the road here, next year, when to really give him an opportunity to talk to the fans. But you think about a franchise, and he's scored more points than anybody in this franchise in the history, and then what he's meant to the franchise. And we've just talked about Kopi, what a great, wonderful person he is for. So for me, Alec Martinez to be back here, and Stoley's around here in player development, but sees him quite a bit. But what a thrill for them to be on the ice. Luc Robitaille, who Hall of Famer, great player, one of the highest scoring, maybe left wingers in the history of the game to be on the ice. It was a great, wonderful celebration, and Kopi does it right. He takes the accolades, shakes everybody's hand, interacts with his family, and he gets back to business. And I thought the first 3 or 4 shifts that they were on the ice, that line for us in the first period, Kopi, and they spent time in the O-zone. He got right back to business. He was focused, and he understood the importance of the game to our team, and he got right back to business.
Sounds like Kopitar would fit in well in the Kenny Holland golf extravaganza.
I think he likes his golf. Yeah, he's. I've never played with him or anything, but I know he enjoys his golf, and I know he's looking forward to going home, raising his kids, back home. So he's had it's been it's like I said, it's a Hall of Fame career. Great guy, and I'd like to play one round of golf with him before he heads home.
Will you have to give him strokes, Kenny, or what?
I think he has to give me strokes. I hear he's pretty good.
I know you enough that even if you had to give him strokes, you'd make him give you strokes.
I got to drag him up to 5,800 yards.
He's rich enough to get in the game. I know that. Let's take a break. We'll come back with Kenny Holland, more with the Los Angeles Kings general manager on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
Car shopping should be exciting, not exhausting. That's where Car Gurus comes in. They have advanced search tools, unbiased deal ratings, and price history, so you know a great deal when you see one. It's no wonder that Car Gurus is the #1 rated car shopping app in Canada. When you're car shopping on your phone, it shouldn't be a maze. You need to see all the information. With the Car Gurus app, you can. Powerful search tools that you see deal ratings, price history, and dealer reviews on listings all in one place. And you can turn on real-time price drop alerts so you never miss a great deal. Car Gurus connects you with trusted dealerships when you're ready, ensuring a transparent, hassle-free buying process. Buy your next car today at cargurus.ca. Make sure your deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.ca. cargurus.ca.
So if I said blank has to happen for you guys to secure your ticket, what is that?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you go 7-0, I think you're going to be in. I don't know that everyone's playing each other. So I think Nashville, San Jose have 2 more games. I was just looking here last night. We gotta win 5 or 6 minimum here of the last 7 games. We got a big week here. We've got 4 home games here starting Saturday.
Yeah. Your problem is you don't play San Jose.
No. And our problem is we haven't been I think we have the 6th best road record.
Yeah.
We've been really good on the road, top 25% on the road. I think we have the 2nd worst home record. So we just, and last year was flipped. They had, I think they set the franchise record for we had the best road record in the league, best home record in the league last year. So not sure why, but we got to become homers this week.
How has the change with DJ been?
It's been good. I mean, obviously, it's John. It's always tough letting somebody go middle of the season.
And you don't like to do that. Your history.
No, but
I've
done it 3 times now. Ideally, I don't like to do it. Obviously, I did it to midseason to get to Woodcroft, and then midseason to Knobloch, and now midseason to DJ Smith. But I'm not sure that the record has indicated that. But I think we've played hard. I think we've, we had a stinker last week, Saturday night at home against Utah. We've had a few stinkers at home this year, which has been tough. But I think the team has responded to them. They play hard. I thought last night, maybe St. Louis the other night, we had the first period not so good, and I know he talked to the team in the intermission, and they responded, and we played. So I think the team has played hard for them. Obviously, we've now have to turn that into results here in the last 7 games.
We talked to you just before you made the change, and there was no indication from you that you were contemplating it. How did that come about?
Well, we went into the. I think we lost a couple of games going into the Olympic break. I think at Vegas, and there was some other game there. Seattle at home, and at Vegas didn't play great. And we during the Olympic break we did the Panarin deal. or right before the Olympic break, we did the Panarin deal. So, my hope was that we were going to come out, hit the ground running. And then, then lost coming out of the Olympic break to Vegas at home. And I think they had their best 5 players. They sat them out coming out of the Olympics. Yeah. We were up 2-1 going in the third, let that one go. And then we had a really tough night. The next night home, Edmonton beat us at home 8-1. And I didn't like you never like get 8-1, but it didn't feel good. It felt like something needed to happen. So talked to Luc Robitaille, and the next day was an off day. Made a decision that we're going to make a coaching change, but we let Jimmy, because the game was the next day. There was no morning skate. The players were just going to show to the rink. It was a 4:00 game for Hockey Night in Canada. Let Jim Hiller coach that game, but knew that after the game or the next morning we were going to make a change. Just felt that something needed to be done to try to kind of jumpstart the team. So obviously made the move, and like we've talked about, I think the team has played hard for DJ. Feels like that we've got good chemistry down there. He's made a few tweaks. Haven't won quite as much as I think we'd like to. There's a couple of games in there that we feel we played good enough to win, but we didn't. But we have to, like I said, we got 7 games here. We got 4 at home, and then we have a 3-game. We got to be homers this week. But those decisions are never easy. But you do it in the hopes of that your team will respond.
Are you scoring more goals, do you think?
A little bit. I obviously we were down 4-1 last night and got that to 4. The night before it's 1-1. Game goes to scored 2 second goal in overtime. I think obviously with the addition of Panarin, we coming out through the Olympic break. Obviously, we added Panarin, and we thought we'd have Fiala, and then we kind of thought we'd have Fiala, Panarin, Kempe. We'd have 3 wingers in the top 6 that, are 70 to 80, 85 point guys. And you've got Byfield, and you've got Kopitar down the middle, and then we had some other wingers there at the time, Fogle and Laferriere and Moore, and we felt that we could really put two offensive lines together, and still had some pieces there because the third line here last year, Deneau, Moore, Fogle was a big piece of this team, and that didn't happen right off the bat, and obviously I ended up trading Deneau to Montreal, and then when we got Panarin, ended up making the move to trade Fogle to Ottawa. So kind of had to rebuild a third line. That was the acquisition of Lawton, at the deadline. But certainly, so we were kind of hoping that the moves we were going to make were going to lead to more goals, and then we lost Fiala. The power play, I think, was better. Hasn't been quite as good the last 2 or 3 games, but you get Panarin on the sideboards. He's got unbelievable vision, and he creates opportunities for everybody. So I think we've scored a little bit more. Not as much as probably I had hoped. But I think obviously with the loss of Fiala, that's he's a 70-point guy, and then we had Armia out there for about 3 weeks. He come back. He had got a cross-check in the Switzerland game and had a bit of a hairline fracture somewhere there, so needed about 3 weeks off. So, but at the end of the day, as we sit here today, I still do believe we control our own fate. I think if everybody wins out, we're going to lose on tiebreakers, but Nashville and San Jose played twice. Someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. So we just got to take care of our business. Got to take care of business tomorrow night against the Leafs, and one game at a time. I don't think you can look at 7 games and say, we got to win all 7, because then it starts to become too big. It starts to become overwhelming. I think we got to win a game tomorrow night. We got to come to the rink tomorrow. We got to continue to play like we did the last 30 minutes of last night's game. We got to be ready to roll. everybody understands. I think they have to understand the importance of the game, and we got to win a game. And then you wake up the next day and you got to have the same mindset. You got to do that every day. That's the same mindset you got in the Stanley Cup playoffs. When you go to the rink, you got to win a game. And if you're down 2-0, you don't win you can't win. You got to win a game, and you got to get back. You got to get back in the series. And then usually when you're down 3-0, it's the odd team has come back. But if you're down 2-0 in a series, you got to win a game. And you got to get back in the series. We got to win a game. We got to win a game tomorrow. Gets us back in the series. It gets us back in the race. And then you get to Monday night, and then obviously Nashville's coming back here, and got to win a game. So I just think that right now, because the way the schedule looks, we control our own fate. We do know that we got to win most of them, but right now, just got to win a game. Just got to win a game on Saturday. It's a must-win game for us.
When you're sitting in your box watching last night and you're down 4-1 and you start to score, how much are you checking your phone to seeing where the Sharks are? Where are you checking where the other teams are?
Well, I'm checking scores. I mean, it's that time of the year. John, I usually check scores in November. You got to get. It's. I think these races are like this every year.
Sure.
That's the beauty of the National Hockey League. These races are unbelievable. So, but yeah, I mean, there last night. I mean, you got one TV in front of me, and over here is Calgary and Vegas. There's another TV there. We have the Sharks and on TV with Toronto. But ultimately, you got to take care of your business.
Right.
Obviously, when it was 4-1 last night, down, didn't feel great. And I thought when we got the second goal, it gives you a little. And then when you got the goal to make it 4-3, thought the building got excited, the fans got excited.
And not only that, did you get it to 4-3? You thought you were starting the third period with a 4-minute minor against you, and how did?
Well, what ended up happening is, so the intermission, I'm up in the box, and then the coaches went into their room, and then they were looking. I was looking up there, and I saw the stick, and I see the stick. I saw the stick was in here. It wasn't his face. There was a cut on the player's. But the stick doesn't hit there. So DJ called with about 5-6 minutes to go. They're looking at the same video that I'm looking. They're looking in the coach's room. He's called me, and what do you think? And I said, DJ, there's no chance that stick hit his face. And he says, we see the same thing. So I said, DJ, when you come back out on the ice, I said, you call the refs right over and you tell them that you've just looked at the video and have them, it's a 4-minute thing. It's a 4-minute penalty. So tell them to have one more look, like just to be sure they're making the right call. The only thing I couldn't see from my angle, I couldn't see the end of Clark's stick. I could see all this side, and I could see the stick come through here, and then I couldn't see the other side. So I don't know if there was an angle from the other side. So I said, DJ, I can't tell on the other side, but there's no chance on this side. The player's left. There's no chance that the stick got anywhere near his face. It was below.
Right.
It was right in there. So DJ called the referees over, and then had a conversation, and that's when the refs then spent about 3, 4, 5 minutes. They obviously then talked to Toronto, and they got it right.
I have never seen that before. No, I have never seen that before.
Neither have I.
Well, good on the refs for doing that. Good on the refs for being willing after an intermission.
Good on the refs and good on the league. Obviously, these are massive games for both teams. And if like again, I said to DJ, I can't see the right, so I can't tell you it's not a penalty because I can't see if Clark's stick has maybe caught his face on the other side. But there's no chance on the left. The cut that he had on his face was from a previous incident. So good on the refs, good on the league, and then they obviously reviewed it, and they came to they obviously saw that the stick didn't hit his face.
Well, in fact, Tyson Jost should have got a penalty for embellishment.
I was just happy that the 4 minutes went down. We could start the third period.
But I have never seen that before. And then you wonder, okay, the intermission's 18 minutes long. I mean, maybe you could put this on the agenda for the next GM's meeting. Can this not happen during the intermission?
Well, the refs would have to come back out, right?
Well, but they can get on the phone with Toronto.
But they want to look at it themselves.
Well,
obviously, they when the period ended, I was up there when the period ended, and there was that commotion in the corner, and then the team started to leave, and I could see the refs sitting by the penalty box for an abnormal amount of time. So I knew they were looking at something, and then I kind of heard somebody's got a 4-minute penalty for high sticking, but I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear if it was our team or their team. And then the refs left the ice, and then shortly thereafter, up on the board went 4 minutes to 92. LA Clark for it was up on the board. 92 4 minutes high sticking. So that's when we got the TVs there. That's when I had the TVs and I was looking at the TVs for about 7, 8, 10 minutes, 7, 8, because it's 6 minutes to go on the clock on the thing, and the phone rings. It's DJ Smith, and he said, "Have you been looking at this thing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm looking at this thing up there." And he said, "We can't see anything." I said, "I can't see anything either." So I said, "DJ, you gotta when these refs come out, you gotta call the refs and have them look at this thing one more time." They obviously looked at it.
Yeah. At
the end of the period to make the decision. Just have them look at it one more time and talk to Toronto. So I good on DJ, good on the refs for making sure they got it right. And obviously they would have called Toronto. Whoever was in the situation room in Toronto would have been working with them to make this decision.
Did you consider phoning the situation room?
I did consider it, but
you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to, but people do. And in this case, a pretty important point of the season, I would have called.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, Daren. I'm not going to tell you who I called or didn't call, but I did talk to DJ.
Okay. But here's the thing. Kenny spent all last, that year that Kenny wasn't a manager, Kenny spent it in the situation room.
Yes.
So Kenny does understand a little bit more of what goes on behind the scenes.
I felt confident, Daren. I felt confident that if the refs got with Toronto and looked at it again, unless they were seeing something different than what we were seeing, if they were looking at the same video we were looking, there's no chance it was a penalty. Was there a camera on the other side looking at the right to see where the toe of Clarkie's stick was? But everything that we saw, there's no chance it was a penalty. That's what I said to DJ. I said, tell them to have one more look, that you've looked at this multiple times over and over and over again. There's no chance, and ask them. We're just coming here. It was the period. You're going to have a minute or two before the period starts. Have them go over there and call Toronto and look at this thing one more time to be sure. So they did that, and I believe they made the right call, but certainly taking 4 minutes down doesn't happen very often.
And it probably got you a point.
Yeah, you were down by a goal, and they got a 4-minute power play to start. They score on that thing. You go up 5-3, tough to probably come back. So yeah, it was a massive, but they got it right. Good on the league.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, how's our buddy Greener doing? Matt Green, who took over the defense.
Oh, he's great. Yeah. He's great. He's
never coached before. Never been behind the bench
first
before.
time ever. I'm not even sure if he coached minor. When I made the decision to change coaches, I knew I was going to move DJ up. We had to have a defensive coach there, and they've got a wonderful development team here with OD, with Sean O'Donnell and Jarrett Stoll and Greener. Greener's here every day, lots of passion, gets on the road and flies and goes to see our prospects, comes back. He's a worker. And so on the Saturday night, when Jim Hiller did coach, I knew I was going to make a change either after the game or but I knew it kind of had to go in tandem. They can't just announce a head coach. So I said I think first intermission they were playing on Saturday night. I pulled Greener aside and I said, Greener, I might be making a coaching change. Would you have interest in sliding behind the bench and pitching in with the organization and taking over the D? And absolutely, he was. I'm sure he's excited to be back there, and he's got tremendous respect from those players for what he's accomplished in his career, for who he is as a person, but also for his work ethic and his passion in terms of player development. Obviously, he would have spent a lot of time with Brant Clark, in player development, and he would have spent a lot of time probably being around here, with Drew Doughty and the guys that have been here, Edmondson. So he's got instant respect, sliding behind the bench. Great human being, treats people fair, and he's done a great job for us.
I don't know Matt Green, but I keep hearing he's the funniest guy in hockey.
Oh.
I haven't seen. He's funny. I think he around me hasn't been. I got to loosen him up. But
he's funny.
You're kind of intimidating, Kenny.
I don't know, but he's really he's business. When it's time to be businesslike, he's businesslike. He's all business, but a great guy. Everybody loves him, and like I said, he's done a great job in difficult circumstances.
Just, I was going to ask earlier, but we got off on a tangent about the 4-minute minor. You talked about all the moves you made, Deneau, Fogle. How difficult was it to trade Corey Perry?
It was very difficult. I obviously had him in Edmonton, and when I got the job here, I really relied heavily on Marc Bergevin as we went through the off season. Berge had him obviously in Montreal when they went to the finals. I don't have to tell you what Corey Perry stands for. So, basically going into that decision, I only was going to trade him to a team that had a chance to go on a long playoff run. We're on the bubble, and we're on the bubble today. And, I went, Corey had a no move. Or no trade. I went and talked to him, but I said to Pat Morris's agent, I'll only trade him for a second. He's too valuable to us in the locker room. He's too valuable on the power play. He stands up for his teammates. But where we were in the standings, when you not get an opportunity for a second round draft pick, it's a second and 28, but it's still a second round draft pick. It's currency. You can either wait to take the pick in 3 years, or you can use it, between now and then if you want to as part of a trade. I wasn't going to trade him for a third or a fourth or any other thing. It had to be a second. And when Tampa Bay said it was a second, I talked to Pat and I talked to Corey, and eventually made the deal. But it's tough. It's tough because this team had a wonderful year last year at 105 points, wanted to come in and try to take it. Corey Perry was one of the pieces that we thought was going to come in and help score a little bit more, help our power play, because the power play hadn't produced last year. And, had him in Edmonton. We went to the finals, game 7, I think. So tough trading him, but happy we were able to get a second round draft pick. And if we didn't get a second, he'd still be here.
For a team that's in the mix, you moved off a number of veterans at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, over the obviously in December traded away Deneau.
But he wanted out. He wanted out, right?
Yeah. Traded away obviously Warren Fogle. I think with Warren Fogle's case, and I was with Fogs, and I acquired Fogs in a trade in Edmonton, and his last year in Edmonton he had 20 goals and 20 assists, and his first year here last year had 24 goals and 45 points. Plays, but when we had the addition of Panarin, Fogs' role had changed. I wanted to get, with Deneau gone, I wanted to get a third line center. So basically kind of I got a second for Deneau, but traded a third for Lawton. So basically turned Fogle into Lawton to get a center iceman. You want to be 3 centers deep. We want to trying to get in, we're trying to get in, and you got to have 3 centers. And, Turk's done a good job in there. Turcotte, he can also play left wing. Sammy Hellenius, Turk's hurt now, but wanted to, so did some maneuvering around to try to get us a little bit greasier, grittier, be stronger down the middle. Obviously Panarin to give us some offense, and we are where we're at now. We've, like I said, I still believe we control our own fate, but we have to win at a high level here the last 7 games.
You may be on the bubble, but realistically, Kenny, where else would you rather be but being a general manager?
Yeah. Where else would you rather be? I'd rather be 10 points higher in the standings.
Yeah, okay.
That's where I'd rather be.
All right. So you got 7 holes left here. 7 games left. 7 holes left. Do you got to go 2 under in golf terms? Is that what you?
Yeah. But I'm about a 10 handicapper, so I got to play even par. That's like
okay. That's fair. That's the same scenario.
We got to win tomorrow night. You got to par the next hole. When you got a 10 handicap, you got to par. You just got to do it, and then you got to go. And it's the next hole or the next game. We just got to, like I said here earlier, we got to win tomorrow night. It's a must win tomorrow night. And then if you win tomorrow night, it puts you in a good position for the next game. And we don't have any room here for any missteps now.
Happy Easter to you and Cindy.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Thanks,
Happy
buddy.
Easter. Always talk. Nice talking to you guys. Take care.
You bet. Back with more on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
With the NHL app, you can listen to every NHL game right from your phone. And with home and away broadcast feeds, you choose your way to listen.
And he scores!
Whether you're at work, at the gym, or stuck in traffic, the NHL app puts you right in the action all season long. Every team, every game, everywhere you go. Download the NHL app and never miss a moment.
Oh, his answers sometimes kill me. Where else would you rather be? Yeah, you're right. Where else? But it's true. He would not want to be anywhere else. But being in the middle of it is like, oh my goodness.
But you know what? I look at Rick Bowness, lifer. Columbus has kind of hit the skids, but where would Rick Bowness rather be but behind a bench? John Tortorella, taking a team over with 8 games to be, as he told you, that's what he wants to do. He wants to be a coach. The ups and downs, the whole thing. And Kenny's the same way. Where else would he want to be? Last year, I'm sure for him was painful to be out of the game after all the things he has accomplished in the game and the amount of influence he's had in the game, and yet he wasn't one of the 32 managers. And then all of a sudden, of course, he became flavor of the week for a couple of months and had a couple of offers to be manager in the NHL before he took the LA job.
Do you think LA gets in? Anybody that really has a handle on it is guessing, but we do have our hunches.
Well, I don't. When you look at schedules, Nashville plays LA one more time after beating them Thursday night, and they play San Jose twice. So Nashville, in so many ways, controls its own fate. And then San Jose, who play the Predators twice and have a game.
Somebody's getting points out of there.
And have a game in hand. So, and when you're talking about one game at this time of year, it's that important, and so it's going to be amazing what the next couple of weeks are until the 16th of April.
And on the other side, I was impressed. Like Philadelphia is still in it, very much.
Yeah. They did it. Rick Tocchet's done a good job the last 2 weeks to get them back in the picture, and it's fascinating to see what happens. Last night was it, but the ebbs and flows, right? Like the Bay of Fundy, right? Last night they lose, and now everybody's shaking their head at them. So it's fascinating. By the way, we kind of buried the lead about your game with Carter Hart playing goal. That was
returned after missing 33 games,
but they did do a good job of keeping that on the down low, didn't they?
He'd been back practicing with the full group for about a week.
Okay.
So we could see it on the horizon. There was no announcement going into the day.
So at the morning
John
skate, there was no
did
announcement.
say at the morning skate that he was going to start, but that was the first time that we'd heard that.
Is that right?
They made a corresponding move, sending Braden Bowman to Henderson. He's on his ELC, so they are able to clear a roster spot on that side of it. But yeah, that'll be interesting. 7 games left. Adin Hill's played a majority of the games. How many games do you need to get Carter Hart in to make sure he's ready? And then how many games do you have to get Carter Hart in these final 6 now to be able to make a decision on who you play in this to start the playoffs?
Well, the one thing is that we know John Tortorella will make a decision and won't waver from it. Mm-hmm. But if you look,
I think both guys will play in the playoffs.
If you look at history of the game, there have been great goaltending stories years ago that guys have come in with 7 games to play and run the table or made an impact for teams. The most historic one obviously is Ken Dryden, who did it for Montreal. Andy Moog did the same thing. Glenn Sather was coaching the Edmonton Oilers, and he did not like his goaltending. He brought this kid up from the American League, or maybe it was even the Central League at that point, from Wichita. And Andy played, I think, if memory serves me, Andy played 7 games at the end of the season and went into the playoffs, and they won a round and scared the Islanders in the next round. So, I mean, there is precedent for it. And as well as I do,
that's the challenge there. He wasn't playing anywhere like
no. But if you said
were.
he's been practicing with the big club for a week or so, I mean, and we know he has the skills to play the position.
They have 2 number 1 goaltenders, Adin Hill and Carter Hart. So I think both guys will play if they get in, which looks like that's going to happen. They'll challenge, hopefully, from my perspective, for a home ice spot. We'll see where they take it.
Goaltending is so vital to a team having playoff success.
It's the Vegas way, though. They always have goaltending challenges with goaltenders being in and out. The 2023 when they won the Stanley Cup, it happened. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
I would say there's probably across the board. Look at Montreal.
Yeah,
with Fowler and Dobish. Look what's happened there. I mean, not every team is built like the Boston Bruins, and we know who the number 1 goaltender is. Not every team's built like that. I would tell you, if you went through the potential 16 teams that are going to make the playoffs, there might be more than half that have a bit of a question mark. Who's
Edmonton?
Well, no, I think it's. You're right. But I do think the answer is Ingram at this point. But look at the team who has more than 100 points, 108 points. Who's starting goalie in the playoffs for Colorado?
Woody.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's good.
It's an easy call.
Thank
I don't know what you're all concerned about.
Thank goodness for the Wood brothers.
Thanks to Kenny Holland for joining us today. Everybody have a great Easter weekend. We appreciate
Happy Passover too for our Jewish friends.
Appreciate you being on this ride with us, and we'll talk to you again on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
Remember, give us a thumbs up.
How do you get your hand so close? It looks like it's almost like punching your computer.